Well, it looks as if the dam has finally broken. Well, apologies for me sounding ever so slightly more baritone than I usually do, but I've been suffering with a damned cold for the past few days. I could, of course, try and make out it was something far more windswept and interesting, like possibly a new strain of the COVID, maybe even a bit of bird flu, or dare I say it, a bit of monkeypox. But no, that would be bullshit, and you don't come here to listen to that. It's just a damn cold, the old-fashioned type of thing that we all got and still do. Many of you out there are probably suffering too. Now, whilst I don't mind being ever so slightly more sonorous and baritone, it's the runny nose, the sore throat, the fits of coughing, and the general feeling like shit that I could do without. But on with the show. The show must go on, and today we are talking about the biggest thing on X at the moment and for the past few days. The dam, it seems, has finally broken on one of the biggest scandals. I would say it's the biggest atrocity that the UK has had in its midst going on all around for the past 3 or 4 decades. That is the child grooming gang scandal. And even there, I immediately take issue. Grooming scandal. What does that sound like to you? That's done purposely with it's a branding exercise. It's like something you do to a dog. Oh, your dog grooming services and all this. No, this was nothing short of paedophilic rape gangs. There was no grooming my arse. It was what it was. It was gangs of predatory, mainly Pakistani Muslim men preying on young English white girls. So stop it with this grooming bullshit. It's not a scandal, it's an atrocity as far as I'm concerned.
There appear to have been upwards of 250,000 young white girls raped in this century, very largely by Muslim men. And given these girls are usually raped several times a day for years, so, my lords, what is the government's answer to the Chief Constable of Northumbria, who has just said that there is every likelihood that these grooming gangs are operating in every one of our major cities?
And at 2:30 in the morning, the next morning, a woman on the other side of Rotherham had picked up the phone and dialed 999 because she'd heard a young girl screaming in the house next door. Police had gone round to the house. They found this 13-year-old girl with another young girl. She was almost completely naked, she was blind drunk, and she was with 7 adult Pakistani men. She was drunk and leery. And South Yorkshire Police arrested the 13-year-old girl for being drunk and disorderly. They took her back to the station, put her in the cells, eventually charged her, and she was convicted. They didn't even question the men as to why they were in a house with a 13-year-old girl who was nearly naked in the early hours of the morning.
Well, thanks to X, thanks to Elon Musk, thanks to a number of other factors, including some court transcripts getting published on X, and we could all read them, the true horror, or at least a measure of the absolute, it's pure evil. What has happened in the last few decades by one specific group, and I'm talking here, I'm not going to mince words, because it's overwhelmingly Pakistani Muslim men on native English white girls, some as young as 11. And while this has been in the mix for the past few years, it's not like we haven't heard of it. No, it has been spinning around and doing the rounds here and there, popping up every now and again. Some brave people have stuck their necks way out, or particularly Tommy Robinson, who's currently in His Majesty's prison at the moment. He has been working tirelessly to expose this absolute evil that has been going on.
Not 24-year-old groups of 10 of them hanging around outside school gates.
You've never seen a white gang?
And purposely targeting...
Never seen a white gang?
Are we going to pretend that Muslim groups are not out there purposely targeting our youth and pimping them?
And of course, there have been many others, each of whom has been demonized, slandered, told to shut up, told to be quiet, everything that could be thrown at them by the apparatus of the state was thrown at them. And the more you look into this, the more horrifying, the more it's almost mind-numbing, the absolute level of evil, the absolute level of degradation, of torture, of defilement and subjugation of some of the most vulnerable people in society, in any society, young girls, by evil monsters. We're talking ISIS levels of pure evil. The social workers dealing with these often very vulnerable young children, they knew what was going on. The local councillors, they knew what was going on. The police forces, from the rank and file up to the chief superintendents, they knew what was going on. The media were tipped off time and time and time again. They knew what was going on. And the government, and I'm talking about not just the Labour government of today, I'm talking about the Conservative government previously and the previous Labour government, they all knew. The politicians, the political class, the political elites, the people at the top, right to the top, all knew this was going on. And they tried to suppress it. They tried to dampen it down. They tried to ignore it. All of these stratas of societies came together to ignore and to allow to happen and continue to allow to happen for many, many years, and even going on still. The most hideous, the most barbaric, the most evil acts of depravity on young girls, young vulnerable girls, so that they wouldn't be seen or thought of as racist or Islamophobic. But any normal, sentient, reasonable person is asking the same question. How could such an abomination, a manifestation of pure evil, take place in the modern day in one of the most advanced societies on the face of the earth? How could such a thing not just happen once, but happen repeatedly and happen over many years? Well, I'll tell you why, and you probably know this as much as I do. This atrocity, and that's what it was, an atrocity, not a grooming scandal. That's far too bloody polite and nice. No, it was a paedophilic rape scandal. That's what it was. Perpetrated by people who hate you and your culture. The reason is very, very simple. And it's why every possible energy and apparatus of the state was brought to bear to keep it under wraps. Because this scandal goes to the very heart of what the government and European governments, my own government absolutely included, is trying to do. They're having this grandiose modern experiment with multiculturalism. All peoples from all cultures and all ways of life can just be shunted into the same space and everything's going to be fine. Everybody's just going to get along.
I like to teach the world to sing with me.
There'll be no unpleasantness. It's just a utopian dream. This scandal laid bare in the rawest possible way of when you throw in cultures from barbaric, brutal, backward, dysfunctional parts of the earth into a modern, high-trust, benign, peaceful society, you get this.
When I was a victim, I was raped multiple times, I was beaten, I was tortured, and throughout all of that I was constantly being racially abused. There was a constant barrage of, you're a white slag, you're a white whore, you're a fucking gory, which is the Pakistani word for white person.
Mr. Bridger will drive them into the sea.
You have people from cultures who don't assimilate. You have people from cultures that are backward, that believe in marrying close relatives. You have people from cultures who believe it's fine to have open intercourse and do whatever the hell you like to prepubescent girls. They see nothing wrong with it. You invite, you bring, you allow these cultures to immerse themselves in the bosom of your once safe, peaceful society. And you get this.
I was raped multiple times, I was beaten, I was tortured, and throughout all of that I was constantly being racially abused. There was a constant barrage of, you're a white slag, you're a white whore, you're a fucking gory.
And then, well, to admit it would be a problem, because that would be admitting that the whole thing is a sham. It doesn't work. And then, if we admit it doesn't work, we'd have to do something about it. We might have to change course. We might even have to reverse course. And we can't possibly allow that. Well, where would we be then? We might have to make difficult decisions.
Mr. Bridger will drive them into the sea.
No, it was much easier for the Keir Starmer, who was head of the Crime Prosecution Service, let's not forget, for a number of years when this was all going on. Let's not pretend he isn't up to his neck in it and knew about it and chose to look the other way, like he does with many things. These paedophilic rape gangs were overwhelmingly from one specific subculture: Pakistani Muslims. There's something going on in that culture. There's something going on in that whole subset of a culture, with the belief system, with the actions, with what they think about other cultures, what they think about people in general. There's something fundamentally flawed and broken in a way that's pure evil. But the authorities can't admit that because they let them in. And they were prepared to sacrifice, and they did sacrifice, a whole generation, if not more than one generation, of young, innocent, vulnerable girls. Just so they could propagate this notion, this utopic notion, that we can throw everything into the melting pot, everything and anything, good, bad and indifferent, and it's all just going to be marvellous and wonderful, and utopia will arrive. Bullshit! The brave men who went over the top and ran into a hail of gunfire at the Somme would never have allowed this. The men who stormed the beaches of Normandy in 1944, they would never have had this. Why are we putting up with it now? What has happened to our men? Why have they become so castrated, so gelded, that they would allow this to happen in the modern day? Something has gone fundamentally wrong. If this is the dam breaking, I say let it break. Let it break, and it's about time it did. Because maybe a flood is needed to wash away all the shit that is built up in the system. This is nothing short of a crime against humanity, a crime against a people, a proud people, and Englishmen, men of Britain. If and when you rediscover your metal, your bollocks, I, as a proud Irishman, will be in your number to right these wrongs.